Ethos of Silence.
A veteran podcast aims to amplify the voices of veterans, creating a safe space for authentic conversations about their experiences, challenges, and triumphs. We seek to break the stigma surrounding mental health and foster community support, resilience, and understanding. Through storytelling, expert insights, and candid discussions, we strive to inspire healing, promote awareness, and empower veterans on their journeys.
Welcome.
Yeah.
Ex-Secret Service guy.
And he loves blowing stuff up, and he'll go outrageous on stuff. Yeah, I like watching clips, and anytime I see one of his clips, I've got to jump into the actual podcast.
Yeah.
I've got to jump into his actual podcast.
Yep.
Oh, and this is perfect. This is what I like doing anyway, is like having a halfway conversation. They've got no idea what we're talking about, and I press record.
That's right.
Like, all right. Well, so this is Ethos of Silence. Who I got sitting here with me today?
Tim Slone.
Tim Slone. I like that name. My name's Tim, too.
That's right. Two Tims always make a right.
There we go. I like that one. Haven't heard that one yet. All right. So tell me a little bit about your service.
So I joined the Air Force right out of high school. And
that's cool. Why the Air Force?
So my dad told me not to join the Army because I never knew where I was going to sleep.
Okay.
Which was kind of funny. So I said, okay, I'll join the Air Force. Joined the Air Force, went to tech school, became a meteorologist.
Meteorologist, huh?
Became a weather guy.
So you're the guy we hate that gives us the weather?
Exactly.
Never gets it right.
It never gets it right, exactly. But in the Air Force, if you don't get it right, you get in trouble. So I was supposed to go, my first duty station was supposed to be in Texas. And I would have been sitting in basically a windowless room for 8 hours doing quality control on weather observations. And I come from a small farming community. I grew up in the woods.
Yeah.
I was outside all the time.
There's no way you're going to put me in a box.
And then they're going to put me in this box. And I'm like, oh, this isn't going to work for me. So when I came in the Air Force, you could swap assignments your first assignment.
Oh, that's awesome.
So there was a guy that was there in my tech school that he was married, had 2 kids, and he was going to Fort Ord in Monterey, California, the 7th Infantry Division.
Yeah, no, I don't want those orders if I've got a wife and kids and everything else going on.
He was like, I can't afford to go out to Monterey, California with a wife and 2 kids.
Yeah.
And I'm like, hey, I will take that assignment in a heartbeat. I was 17 years old, 18 years old. I'm like, I'll go out there. Hell yeah.
Best shape of my life. Let me go hit some California beaches.
I was.
Especially so I haven't actually talked to anybody from the Air Force on my podcast yet. So how was recruit training? What was training like?
Oh my God, it was silly. I'm just going to say.
You played sports in high school, right?
So I was a wrestler.
Okay.
I started wrestling when I was 6 years old.
Okay.
And in northern Illinois, Dan Gable, Iowa.
Yeah.
I went to the Iowa Intensive Wrestling Camp. I was a wrestler.
Okay.
We were knuckle draggers.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was in the best shape of my life when I went to Air Force basic training. I actually got out of shape in basic training. It was horrible. So basic training in the Air Force, there's something called honor graduate in basic training. So my whole flight to make honor graduate, you have to pass all the tests at like 98%. All the academics you have to pass at 98%, and then you have to run your PT test at a higher level than everybody else.
Okay.
And all of that. Well, like I said, I was 17 years old when I started basic training. I was the youngest in my flight. So I passed everything with 98%, and then my whole flight was running at the honor graduate level up until like 3 or 4 laps before the end, before they released the folks that were going to make honor graduate to go. Well, they released us, and then I just booked. And I lapped the entire flight twice before we finished, and we only had like 4 laps left.
Yeah.
And I lapped them twice. And my TI was like, okay, I think you're good. So basic training to me was a joke.
Yeah.
And I was only 18 years old. We had 28-year-old people in there that were crying. And I'm like, you're crying? I mean, come on. I'm 18. This is a joke. It's 6 weeks. Get real. So, yeah, the training back when I went through it was silly.
So flight, that terminology is like your platoon?
Exactly. A flight is a platoon. I was the first squad leader.
Okay.
Because I was the youngest, they put me as the first squad leader, and I kind of thought that was funny too because, you're going to put the youngest guy in charge of people? Okay. You're not real smart, but I was also pretty mean.
Yeah.
But, I grew up, like I said, the youngest kid in my family too, out of 6 kids.
Out of 6 kids?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I was a pretty mean little guy.
Yeah. You got to get to the table and fight for the scraps.
Exactly. So yeah, I had a pretty good upbringing, and my dad was a blue collar worker. He worked at John Deere for 35 years.
Okay.
Plus he farmed.
Yeah.
So I knew what a hard day's work was.
Okay.
And I still know what a hard day's work is. You get up, you go to work. That's what adults do. You don't whine about it. You do your 8 hours. You go home. You leave work at work. Home life is home life. If somebody calls you from work, you look at them, you go, hey, is this important enough to call me? Because if it's not, don't call me.
Yeah.
Leave me alone. I'll do it tomorrow. When people realize that, I think society is going to be a
way better place. Way better place. Because once again, the technology of them being able to get you within 30 seconds of, like I'm out shopping for groceries and you could have left me a message on my answering machine that you needed something. We don't have answering machines anymore.
Exactly. They have instant gratification nowadays, which, okay, yeah, it's great. You can see and do everything right now, but you know what? Leave me alone.
Yeah.
I'm not at work. This could wait until tomorrow.
Yeah.
It could have, that meeting, that could have been an email, dude. Don't bother me because you're really not going to like me tomorrow when I get to work if you bothered me.
Exactly.
Because I will make your life miserable. I was a senior NCO. I learned that skill.
So let's go through your career a little bit then. Let's see. So meteorologist, what was that schooling like?
So when you first started, back when I started it, you started out as a weather observer.
Okay.
So you learn the different parts of the sky and, what all that meant.
The blue and the cloud? I mean.
Yeah, you learn the different cloud types and what those cloud types meant, whether it was going to rain, whether it was foggy.
Okay.
And what that did and how that affected the weather on the ground. And it's kind of, because weather and operations go together and weather and intelligence goes together for the military. So you learned how all of that goes together, plus, winds and pressure systems and all of that. So they taught us all of that in 3 months.
Oh, wow.
8 hours a day. So you learned all of that, and then they sent you to your first duty station. And you were in training still at that point, and once you get through your training at your duty station, they kind of set you loose, and you started taking weather observations at an airfield. So when you're at the airfield, you take weather observations, and you were the man. You could close and open that airfield based on your weather observation.
That's cool.
Because a helicopter or an airplane can't fly based on the visibility.
Yeah, no. Based on the visibility, based on what's going in, there's no reason for us to go do bounces out on Bogue Field with a Harrier if the weather's not going to make it be possible to do. Something I never even thought of till I'm sitting down here with you. Yep. But they're like,
if they
we can't punch holes in the sky today. Like, what do you mean you can't punch holes in the sky? You had me out here working all night to get all these aircraft up. They're all up. They're all fixed. But you can't go punch holes in the sky?
If they can't see the ground, they can't take off.
Yeah.
If they can't see so far out, they can't take off because they don't have the visibility to fly that. That was my job to tell them what the visibility was or what the height of the clouds were. That was my job.
That's cool.
So I did that for, I guess it was about 4 years. I was a weather observer. I was stationed at Fort Ord in Monterey, California with the 7th Infantry Division. I got out there in 1989, early 1989.
So
March.
you were telling me that you're in the Air Force, you're a meteorologist, but you were telling me you actually got stationed with the Army.
Correct.
Is
So-
the infantry people you were stationed
So
with, huh?
the Air Force and the Army back in 1947 separated.
Okay.
Well, the Army did not have meteorology. So they have a agreement with the Air Force that the Air Force will do all of their meteorology.
That's
So
cool.
the Air Force supports the Army, so they have Army weather support with the Air Force.
That makes sense. Yeah, cool.
So Air Force guys will go and be stationed with the Army. So I was stationed out at Fort Ord in Monterey, California with the 7th Infantry Division. So I was out there from March until November doing Army weather support. I started out, I did light infantry training when I got there and basically became an infantry grunt. They taught me how to go to the field. They taught me how to blow things up, how to shoot at stuff, how to work crew serve weapons, how to drive trucks, how to drive all sorts of
What's some of the cool training like that looks like? What's some of the cool training you did?
Oh, I learned how to rappel. I learned how to
Okay.
rappel out of helicopters. I learned how to shoot M60s.
Yeah.
I learned how to shoot law rockets. I learned how to blow up tanks. I learned how to do all sorts of cool stuff.
What's some cool stuff you got to blow up? What's like
Tanks.
some tanks?
I got to blow off tracks off of tanks.
There you
I
go.
Got to blow holes in Constantino wire. I got to blow up connexes.
There we go.
So yeah, I had a good
Oh,
time.
that's awesome.
And this is all as an E1, E2 in the Air Force.
Yeah,
Most Air Force people don't get to do that stuff. And then I got to rappel out of helicopters. So,
Did you have to do any rappel training in basic training?
oh no, we didn't.
No?
The Air Force doesn't do that in basic
Okay.
training.
Well, the Marine Corps does.
Yeah, the Marine Corps
we,
gets to
we
do all that
rappel.
cool stuff.
We rappel from a tower. We rappel
Yeah.
from the fast rope. We do a bunch of stuff.
Yep, the Air Force.
I mean, granted, we're there twice as long as y'all are.
yeah,
but,
the Air Force doesn't have any of that, or they didn't. They might now. I haven't even looked at the Air Force's
Yeah.
basic training, but back then the Air Force didn't have any of that combat stuff.
Okay.
I mean, when I was in basic training, I saw an M16 for 4 hours.
What?
Oh yeah,
Did y'all even qualify with it?
I qualified expert with my M16.
But that's only because you knew how to shoot.
Exactly. I knew how to shoot. I never cleaned my M16 in basic training.
What? No.
Yeah, see that? I never cleaned my M16 in basic training. I
Oh,
took it
man.
apart. I never had to clean it.
I took it apart, put it back together, but I never cleaned it.
I never cleaned it. Exactly. I was like, what? I don't understand. Why am I not
Cleaning this.
Why am I not taking care of a weapon? I'm in the military. But
Okay.
we're good because I'm in the Air Force. I get it. I'm just wearing a different kind of suit here. I'm in a corporation.
Yeah.
So yeah.
No, I mean even their dress uniform just looks like you're wearing a blue tux.
You're wearing a blue tux, exactly. You're wearing a bus driver suit or an airline pilot suit.
Yeah.
So I was there from March until November of 1989, and Panama Operation Just Cause was kicking off.
Okay.
I deployed for Operation Just Cause in November, right after. Or December, not November, December. Right as Operation Just Cause kicked off, I deployed to Panama for Operation Just Cause, my first combat deployment.
Okay.
So I was in the jungle down there with an aviation battalion, and we were doing air assaults into the jungle.
So how many other meteorologists were with you on that deployment?
There was 5 of us.
Okay.
There was 2 observers, 2 weather observers, 2 weather forecasters, and our commander.
Okay.
And they put me with a forward infantry platoon, and we were doing patrols out in the jungle and hitting different missions out in the jungle looking for weapons caches. And me and an NCO that was a forecaster. They put us out with a forward infantry platoon, and we were air assaulting into different mission areas. And they put the other weather observer at a weather station that was at one of the airfields. They put another forecaster at a different location, and the commander was bouncing between
using all the data he
locations.
was getting to officially make the calls.
Yeah, he was sending all the data to the headquarters so that the infantry guys could make their calls on what they were doing.
That's awesome.
And that's kind of where the operations and the intel all work together.
Did you get to see anything really cool get called in while you were in Panama? Because like you're literally there making sure that
I got to
when
watch
stuff's going to go down.
I got to watch a whole bunch of cool stuff. I did. So we air assaulted into an area, and we did a bunch of weapons captures. I mean, we captured a bunch of weapons, and that was kind of cool. And a lot of it was meeting the different people in the villages.
Okay.
And them telling us where the caches were. And that to me was cooler than anything, is being able to meet the people in the different locations, because that's a humanitarian issue to me.
Yeah.
Because my time in the military, you get to see a lot of different bad things, but I think more importantly, the good things that you get to see,
The cultures of the different places and the way they live.
If you're, and it might be the special operations in me, winning of hearts and minds to me is better than the bad.
Yes.
If you're doing good, you're winning their hearts and minds, that's making friends, and that's letting them know that we're there to help.
Yeah, exactly.
We're not there to hurt them, we're there to help them, and they're going to help us more.
When you can communicate and bridging the
gap, and that's the whole key. And that was before I was in special operations.
Okay.
So I did that, and then once I got back from Panama, I stayed in Fort Ord for another 9 months.
So how long was that deployment in Panama? Was that like a whole year? Was it 6-8 months?
That was about 3 months.
Okay.
It was about 3 months. And then they deployed us back to Fort Ord, and I realized that I was a little bit tired of humping a ruck everywhere. And our squadron commander came down for a visit, and they put me as his driver.
That's cool.
Which was kind of funny, because he was a special operations guy, a combat weather, a special operations weather guy. And he goes, "Well, you need to go to jump school." And I'm like, What's that? What's that entail? Because I had never heard of the program. I said, "What's that entail?" So he told me about the program, and I said, "Okay." So you had to take a 5-day PT test.
Okay.
For this, and I'm like, "Okay, that's easy enough. Whatever. You couldn't hurt me. I think I had turned 19 by then." I said, you really can't hurt me. So I did the 5-day PT test, and my commander was the one that gave me the 5-day PT test, and he goes, "Yeah, you're good. Whatever. You're fine."
We're wasting our time with this.
So from the time that I took the PT test, he sent the paperwork in, and normally it takes months and months and months to get this all approved.
Yeah.
It took a week, and I had a date to jump school. I went to jump school in like 2 months, and normally it takes months to get orders and everything.
Yeah.
I had orders in a week.
That's awesome.
Because I was the commander's driver, and he's like, "Oh, no, I'm pushing this through." So I went from there to Fort Lewis, Washington, and I was stationed at 1st Special Forces Group, Fort Lewis, Washington. And spent 3 years up there. Went to Korea, all over Southwest Asia, Southeast Asia, wherever that is. Korea, Thailand,
that whole area.
Malaysia. That's an interesting place. Anything in the jungle over there will kill you.
Really?
I'm just saying. Bugs, snakes, you name it. It's going to kill you. Enjoyed first group.
Yeah.
I learned how to run boats out of first group, Zodiacs, those small boat tactics.
Okay.
I was still an observer when I went up there, a weather observer. Spent a little over 3 years there, so I'd been in just under 5 years. And then I went from there to weather forecasting school and spent a little over 11 months in Biloxi, Mississippi, learning how to become a weather forecaster.
Yeah.
And from there, I went to Fort Campbell, Kentucky. And Fort Campbell, Kentucky, I was stationed at the 160th Special Operations Aviation Regiment.
Okay.
Which is the only Special Operations Aviation Regiment in the United States Army. And they're a Tier 1 unit. So they serve the Navy SEALs, they serve Delta, they serve the Army Rangers.
That's cool.
They will go anywhere in the world in under 18 hours.
Yep.
And so I was attached to them, and I also was attached to 5th Special Forces Group while I was at Fort Campbell. I spent 5.5 years there.
Wow.
Ended up in Africa, Jordan. I was there when Somalia happened. I didn't have to go to Somalia, thank God. But during that time, all of that happened. Black Hawk Down. That's the aircraft from Black Hawk Down was Task Force 160.
Okay.
So I know all of the pilots that were in Somalia during that time frame.
Wow.
So those guys are the best in the world.
And, I mean, you've said it before. You're operating with the elite operators around you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Those guys are the best in the world. So from there, I also learned, mountain tactics. I learned desert tactics. I still operated small boats because they had a scuba team. So yeah, I had a great career up till that point. I spent 5.5 years there.
Okay.
The teams that I was, my units, when I was at Fort Lewis, my unit had, there was 8 of us.
Okay.
In the special operations side of the weather team. And when I got to Fort Campbell, there was 18 of us because we supported 2 different teams.
That were ready to go at any time, so
Yeah.
if both of them had to go, you had to have enough weather people, obviously, to make it happen.
Yeah, we had the 160th side, and then we had the 5th group side. And then from 5th group, or from Fort Campbell, I went and moved to Germany, and I was attached to 1st Battalion, 10th Special Forces Group.
Okay.
But I was actually an operating location out of England. I was an operating location out of the 321st Special Tactics Squadron from the Air Force. So there was 4 of us that were stationed in Germany. We were all E6s. It was great. You kind of rolled the dice on who was in charge that day.
Yeah.
From when I was
Take turns with who has to handle the bullshit.
Exactly. So from there, I went to Kosovo, Bosnia, Africa, and Iraq, all while I was in Germany. I was there almost 8 years.
Oh, wow. So where were you on September 11th? In Germany?
So here's a story. Here's a good story. So I was stationed in Germany on September 11th.
Okay.
So in my career, as a weather guy, we kind of got piecemealed our training.
Yeah.
It was weird. We didn't have a pipeline like we should have because they kind of just threw our training together. Now they have a pipeline because it's all transitioned to a different career. So they would kind of throw our training together. You'd get it as you got it.
Yeah.
Well, they said I was totally qualified to do my job.
Cool.
Which I wasn't.
Of course not.
Not in their eyes. I was, but I wasn't.
Yeah.
So I should have gone to survival school 10 years before I did. So I'm in Germany on 9/11, or before 9/11. And my squadron was looking through my records, and they said, holy crap, you are not qualified and you're an operator.
Not qualified in which way?
I had not been to survival school.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. That's part of being an operator.
We're talking years now. We're talking you've been in conflicts. You've did all this stuff.
Exactly.
You're a combat veteran.
I'm a combat veteran.
Of a combat veteran.
Yeah.
And we got to send you to survival school, dog.
We got to send you back to survival school. I'd been in 10 plus years, and I'm an old man at this point.
Yeah.
And they said, you're not qualified, so we have to send you to survival school. So, okay.
I guess. Let's strap it on and go.
I really don't want to go to survival school, but okay. I'll go to survival school. So they sent me to survival school.
So how was survival school being?
Survival school sucked as an old man. So I am the third
oldest person ever complete survival school?
No.
Oh.
I'm the third oldest in the school.
Okay.
There's two other people that are older than me.
They're instructors?
No. That are going through the class.
Okay.
They're older than me. There's two other guys that are older than me. One of them, which is funny, just happened to be a major that was my lieutenant when I was in Fort Lewis. They did the same shit to him.
You can't make this shit up.
So I get there and I'm looking around, I'm like, hey, man,
I recognize you.
How are y'all? How are you? A bunch of lieutenants and some airmen, and I'm looking around, I'm like, oh my God, these are children. And I look over and I'm like, holy shit. Why are you here? He goes, yeah, man, I never went through either. And we're like, oh, that sucks. He goes, yeah, this really sucks. So we're going through survival school, and I'm teaching most of the class because I've done most of the stuff that they're trying to teach us. And the instructors are young airmen, and they're doing some things they're making things harder than it has to be some of the time. And I look at them and I'm like, guys, why are you making this so hard? And they're like, what do you mean? I said, it doesn't have to be this hard, man. Let's do this a little easier. And they're like, like making rope.
Yeah.
Because you can use birch trees and make rope. And they're like, what do you mean? I said, I got two daughters. I can braid hair, man. Let me show you how to braid hair. And they're like, what? I said, let me show you how to make rope. I'll show you how to braid hair. It's easy. So I gave a class on how to braid hair. And they're like, wow.
Yeah, that is easier.
That's a lot easier than what we were doing. I'm like, yeah, it ain't hard. It's pretty easy. And they're like, huh, okay. I said, yeah. I got a lot of knowledge. So going through that, this was right before 9/11.
Yeah.
So we get through our class, and the last part of the class is a POW camp.
Okay.
That you go through. So we're through the POW camp. The last day of training was 9/11.
Oh, damn.
9/11. So they had a choice. The survival school had a choice to let us finish the class or to stop training. Well, there was no point in stopping training because there was nothing that we could do.
Yeah.
So they let us finish. So when we got done, they brought us back to the classroom, and they had us all sitting in this classroom, and they had all these counselors and priests and clergy in there, and they're showing us on the TVs, hitting the towers and stuff. And we're all sitting in there looking and watching, and we're going, okay, we're still thinking that this is part of the training.
Yeah,
we're thinking they're full of shit.
Yeah,
this is part of the training.
Ain't no fucking way.
Yeah, exactly. We're like, there ain't no fucking way this happened. This is part of the training. This is bullshit. So yeah, it took them like 2 hours to convince an entire class of survival school students that was real.
Yeah.
And then
it's not like you can give them back their phones and they check and make sure it's real or verify it somewhere else.
It's not like we could verify it, because nothing was working.
Yeah.
Yeah, it took like 2 hours to convince us that this happened. Because we had just gotten done with 2.5 weeks of survival school training.
Yeah.
And we just came out of a POW camp that they were beating the shit out of us, So, so they had all these counselors and stuff sitting there trying to counsel us. And we're like, yeah, whatever. That's bullshit. You're feeding us full of shit. You got all these counselors here for what?
All these young cats believe in the old guys.
Yeah,
we know these tactics.
Yeah, we know you're full of shit. Come on. So, it took them like 2 hours to convince us that this was real, and then we got to spend an additional 7 days there because there was no flights anywhere.
Yeah,
so we couldn't go anywhere.
Grounded.
So we're sitting in Spokane, Washington for 7 days doing nothing. They couldn't, because when you finish that class, you're on light duty. You can't carry a weapon. You can't do anything for 7 days after you get done. So we're sitting there eating pizza and drinking beer for 7 days.
Wow.
So I finally got on a flight back to Germany, and my wife's like, this sucks because we've been locked down in Delta for 7 days. I said, yeah, I know. I couldn't do anything either. She goes, your kids are scared. I said, well, I understand, sweetheart. We were kind of scared too.
Oh, wow.
So once I got back home, they started, all the deployments and everything. I ended up deploying to Iraq in 2004, right as the surge in Fallujah happened. So I was there right as Fallujah started. I was there for the first vote in Ramadi.
Yeah.
I flew, they taught me how to fly the SUAVs, the small Raven UAVs.
That's cool.
I flew those for the Army, for the SF battalion. I flew those in Africa for the Pan-Salheed initiative when we were chasing gun runners that were running weapons up into Iraq. We did a lot of interdiction stuff in Iraq, and then we transitioned. It was kind of interesting because we transitioned from a direct action battalion in Iraq to an instructor battalion.
Okay.
So halfway through our time there, we went from direct action, a complete direct action battalion, to instruction. So we took over the Iraqi commando school. So I had to set up and it was not easy. I had to set up the commando school weather program for Iraqi commandos.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So that they could learn the weather effects on operations for intel.
Wow.
So, what a sandstorm's going to do to their weapon systems and what the moon phase is going to do to how they go into a target site and all of that. And then I had
and now you're trying to do two things. You're trying to teach them this, but you're also trying to bridge the communication barrier while doing it.
So then I had to find somebody that could interpret this on a slide.
Yeah.
So I had to find an interpreter that I could use that we trusted enough to interpret it correctly.
Yeah.
So that was an
interesting
challenge. Yeah. We had a good interpreter, but he did not want to transition with us to the commando school. He wanted to continue the direct action stuff.
Okay.
Because he really, really, really hated Stom. And he wanted to continue whooping some ass. That's all I could say is that's what he wanted to continue doing. So he transitioned to another Tier 1 unit, and so we had to find different interpreters. So, that was a challenge for us to find other interpreters. We still did direct action stuff, but that was our secondary mission once we transitioned into the commando school. So once we did that, we finished off our time there in Iraq, and I will say this: we lost 0 people in Iraq.
Okay.
Our unit, we had 0 casualties, which
That's
is
impressive. Impressive.
Very impressive. We had 3 Purple Hearts the whole time we were in Iraq.
Have to call it a successful deployment then.
Very successful deployment. Very successful. So, yeah, I worked with the cream of the crop.
Yeah.
Once I got back from Iraq, I hit the pinnacle of my career.
Uh-oh.
So the 60th anniversary of D-Day happened. And I was in Europe.
Okay.
So the 60th anniversary of D-Day, Saint-Mère-d'Église, France. I got to go to Saint-Mère-d'Église, France, and jump into Saint-Mère-d'Église, France.
What?
On the 60th anniversary
That's awesome.
of D-Day.
That's awesome.
I was the 4th person on the ground, and I got to call in the rest of the aircraft.
That's what's up.
So I have video of 700 paratroopers coming in on me on the radio, calling them in and dropping them.
That is
So that
awesome.
was the pinnacle of my career right there.
Yeah.
So that's something that
Yeah,
can't be topped.
The pinnacle of my career is when I was in Japan. We got a chance to go to Iwo
Yeah.
and I took a picture. I just finished black belt training with my 2 buddies who finished black belt training with me, and we're on top of Mount Suribachi taking a fucking picture.
Nice.
Yeah. So that's like the apex of my career was something awesome like that. So I understand.
Yeah, that's something that will never be topped in my lifetime. And then, of course, we all lined up after the jump. We all lined up in formation and went and laid wreaths at Point du Hoc and laid wreaths at the different cemeteries. But there's something about 700 American paratroopers coming in on you, plane after plane after plane. And then,
awesome.
Then of course the World War II paratroopers that gave the finger to the United States and said, you know what? Because the United States told them that they would not allow them to jump, and they rented a fucking plane and said, we're doing it anyway. What are you going to do? We're 60 years old. Fuck you.
What's the worst you can do to us?
What are you going to do? Throw me in jail? We're in France. I always like that joke. The 80-year-old man going into Charles de Gaulle Airport. Sir, where's your passport? You should know you need a passport. Well, I was here before. Well, where's your passport? You should know you needed a passport the last time. Well, ma'am, the last time I was here, I didn't need a fucking passport.
Oh, man. This has been good. You've had a illustrious career, and it's pretty awesome.
I have truly enjoyed my time in the military. I got hit in the head when I was in Iraq with a piece of steel. Had a TBI. Did not hinder me other than not being able to jump anymore. Because I was a master free fall parachutist. Couldn't jump anymore. So they sent me back to Barksdale to finish out my career. I could still do my weather job. So I ended up at Barksdale Air Force Base to finish out my career as a weather forecaster. So I was up on the weather forecasting floor at the 26th Operational Weather Squadron. The 26th Operational Weather Squadron forecasts weather for the entire southeastern United States.
Wow.
I ran the entire operations floor. So I had 32 weather forecasters underneath of me at one time, forecasting for like 170 sites or something like that. Doing weather forecasting and weather warnings and advisories, putting out tornado watches and snow forecasting and all that. So I did that, and then I transitioned from that into the training flight. I was the flight chief of training for the squadron. So from the schoolhouse all the new weather forecasters would come up to our squadron, and they would have to go through a 14-week program before they could come up on the operations floor. So I ended up being in charge of that 14-week program.
Well, I mean, if you set up the program for the, you had to translate and set up the program before, setting up a program for them probably came a little easier.
Well, exactly. Running that program wasn't anything new to me, but I had a hard time transitioning from working with the Army back to the Air Force.
Huh, imagine that.
Because the Army is not touchy-feely like the Air Force. You know, that was, you're a Marine.
Yeah,
you understand.
Yes, yes.
Marine, do this.
Done.
Army is the same way. You know, square yourself away or I'm going to square you away.
Yeah.
The Air Force is, Airman, it's okay, we need to talk. I am not a it's okay, we need to talk guy.
Especially toward the tail end of your career.
Exactly,
after you've been messing with special operators your entire career.
I'm a square yourself away guy. I'm not a touchy-feely guy. And, yeah, I got in a little bit of trouble at the end of my career with that. I mean, I didn't get in any big trouble, but, yeah, I spent a little time in the first sergeant's office and the chief's office talking, you know, senior NCO to senior NCO. It was kind of fun. They would look at me and I'd look at them and I'd go, hey, what do you want me to do? If they come at me like that, I'm going to smack them. And they're like, you can't do that, Sergeant Slone. I said, well, then you better tell them. I said, sorry, that's the way I am. I'm not going to change now.
No, I'm on the tail end of my career.
I said, what are you going to do to me? It takes an act of Congress to get me out of the military. I'm a senior NCO. You can give me an Article 15. It's still going to take an act of Congress to throw me out.
Yep.
I said, sorry, is what it is. I'm within retirement right now. I'm within a year of retirement. I can put in my retirement paperwork and you can't touch me.
Right.
And they're like, well, yeah, you're right. Is what it is. I said, they're gonna either get along with me or they're not going to get along with me. They're either going to like me or they're not going to like me. Well, they found out that they liked me because I'm a very loyal person.
Yeah.
If you do what you're told, I will be very loyal to you. If you don't do what you're told, I'm going to ride you like a rented mule. And you will do what you're told because I will make you do what you're told.
Awesome.
And you'll end up a better airman, which they found that out.
Yeah.
They will have a better career in the end if they listen to me, because I had a hard time at the beginning of my career because I didn't have great NCOs for, you know, a lot of my time in the military.
Yeah.
I didn't have great NCOs. I had good NCOs. But they taught me a lot of things not to do as an NCO, which is good.
Yeah. No, I mean, so you can learn leadership from people that are bad leaders. You learn whatever the hell you're doing is not effective. I am not going to take that approach whenever I'm in that position. Exactly.
You can learn what not to do.
Yeah.
And you can turn that around to a positive thing.
Yep.
And that's exactly what I did.
So any final words of wisdom?
Do what you're going to do to the best of your ability and stick with it.
Yeah.
Don't quit ever. Because when you quit, that just wastes your time.
Yeah.
Because you've already put effort into something. Finish it.
Finish the job. Yeah. Awesome. Well, thanks for coming on the podcast.
Well, thank you for having me.
Iron sharpens iron. Let's make each other better.
If you need more information on veterans benefits, please visit our website at VFWPost4224.org. That's Victor Foxtrot Whiskey, post4224.org. All of our contact information is in the description of the video. Please email us if you have any questions. We now have a moment of silent prayer for those still in the battle, for our departed comrades, for those missing in action, and for those held as prisoners of war.